Hold it! Stay right there. What are you waiting for? Kill them! Kill them both! Now, wait a minute. Is it money you're after? I'll give you as much as you want.
May the saints forgive you, because I won't.
Hey, you're listening to another episode of Threshold Saints. This is Jin the Ninja, and enjoy the show.
Okay, so hey, I am joined tonight by Zack, aka Cryphius, on Twitter, one of my favorite esoteric mutuals. And hey, Zack, how are you doing?
Good, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. This is really cool. I told you just right before we started that this is like my first show by myself, like solo, and you're kind of my first guest, so it's pretty cool.
It's my first show ever, so excited.
Yeah, that's kind of perfect, I think, in some ways. It's kind of full circle for me too, because I only started doing this in like March, so yeah. But
yeah, well, I mean, I've listened to a lot of your stuff, Occult Rejects and with General Lee, and I think you have a few episodes out already now, so yeah. Oh, I'm excited.
Okay, cool. Well, why don't you just give like a brief overview of, I don't know, you've had you post pretty amazing content. You have like very witty, I would say kind of like post-ironic, not hipster takes, but just like very cool takes about magic, and it's very like you do it in a bit of a trickster style, but it's like like I vibe with it. So just introduce yourself and say what you're about and like a little bit about your journey, however much you want to share or not share, whatever.
Yeah, well, I guess I've always been into the occult. I guess not the occult necessarily, but like Lovecraftian type, like horror, just weird shit that kids shouldn't probably be into, but for some reason I always was. I don't know. And then, I don't know, I started researching esoteric, the occult, just weird demonolatry, and like religions, shit like that, just the past few years. And then I'd say within the past like year or two, I started more so experiencing things like, I don't know, just psychic states, visionary states, whatever you want to call it. And that's really where, I don't know, things started to get weird. And that's really where I kind of went off the deep end with it, and it kind of consumed my life.
So do you want to share like a little bit about, I mean, I don't know how sensitive a topic this is for you, but do you want to like share a little bit about that experience and like how it's affected you, how you've like kind of maneuvered back, how you kind of like view it now in retrospect?
Yeah, like, are you saying like when I started experiencing like
yes,
like,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
it's not a sensitive topic.
Okay.
I guess I probably like somewhat unlocked it with psychedelics. I've kind of been doing that for a while, just experimenting since I was young. I mean, I haven't done it in a while, but ever since I was teenager, I've been messing around with that. And then I don't know, I like got more into meditating and just trying to just do spiritual practices, not really even strict or anything. And then I don't know, I started getting visions and seeing weird crap, and then I kind of autistically started obsessing about it and writing them down, and then like thinking like, oh, I saw this in a dream, or I saw this and I don't know, I was talking to you about it, and like they seem to connect somewhat, like, I don't know, but it's very weird. It's very trippy. And yeah, I don't know if you want to talk about like specific experiences, but
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, you go for it. And like just as a question, like what kind of entheogens kind of set it off for you?
I think mostly like LSD, mushrooms was what I did. You know, when I was younger, I've done those probably, I don't know, not a lot, but probably like 20 or so times total, a combination of them. But I would also say, I mean, the farthest that I've ever went, I did DMT, like just normal DMT, and then also 5-MeO DMT. I've only done each of those one time with like the breakthrough experience, but I mean, that's where I was like, I was convinced. Like I didn't need any more convincing after that. You know, I'm like, whatever this is, it shows you something it's undeniable. Like you can't come back from that and be like, oh, it's all in my head and come up with some, I don't know, Jungian like like I don't know, but yeah, there's no way to really come back from that and be able to deny that it's real, I guess, to an extent. But yeah, also
No,
Ibogaine too, I did, and that was an odd one, I would say, more than any of them.
so you found your Ibogaine experience like the most challenging, would you say?
No, it was the most healing, but I
Yeah.
would say that was like it was just the most different. It wasn't a classical. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't know if you've done any psychedelics, but it's not like anything else. I mean, it's like a West African herb. People take it for like, you know, overcoming addiction, which is what I did it for. And I don't know. I was talking to some people, and most people they have these experiences where they like, how do I say? Where they like they see aspects of their life, like, you know, shit like the reasons why they became an addict or whatever they're trying to overcome, depression, anxiety, whatever, mental health stuff. But for me it was like, I don't know, I got all these weird visions of like ancient, I don't know, like ancient Egyptian, Mayan, weird crap that it was like totally out of this world. And I just came back from it and I just didn't, I don't know, but I mean, it definitely felt healing. Just, it wasn't very, like, it seemed like with other people, like the substance or the spirit of the substance was like, this is what you need to fix in your life. This is why this is this, why that is that. Like, trying to kind of get into the root of like their problems or whatever. But yeah, with me, I don't know. It just did what it flushed crap out of my body, and it was like a total reset, I would say, almost. I think the most challenging though was probably just like the regular DMT, just because of the sheer intensity of it, I would say. And it's also like that space is very chaotic, and like you see things beyond your comprehension. Like I was seeing shapes and colors that don't exist here, like higher dimension. I don't even know. Like, and then while I was seeing it, I was like, this can't even be possible, you know? But
No, 100%. I'm
yeah,
totally I'm with you. I'm not a big tripper. I definitely was more in my early 20s, but I just I guess I've chilled out in my 30s,
yeah,
so
that's kind of how I'm going. That's the trajectory now. But
but it's super fascinating, and I've actually have discussed Ibogaine with someone else, and he also did it for like a detoxification from
mhm.
harder drug use. So I've heard of this use quite a few times. I've never done it myself. I've never done DMT. I'm like I'm much more of like a, if it grows, I'll try it, but like if I can't get it easily, then um
Yeah,
yeah, probably won't. But
yeah. I went to Mexico to do it where it's legal. That's where I did like the 5-MeO toad venom too. And yeah, I haven't done either in a while. Like any, it's not something you can do, that often really, unless you want to like completely lose your mind. But
Well, you sound like totally chill, so I guess that it
Yeah,
works
I didn't
for
go
its
too I
magic.
didn't go too nuts, you know.
Well, that's good. So I know that you have like spoken to me about a little bit about maybe I'll just say like a little bit about what you've seen, and if you want to share anything from like not just your entheogenic experiences, but maybe your more meditative experiences, like whatever you're comfortable sharing. Yeah, we could definitely talk about that.
Yeah, well, like the Dakini realm, the red realm is what
Yeah,
I
that's what
really.
I'm really fascinated with, obviously,
Yeah.
personally.
I haven't been there in a while. I don't know, like the all right, so when I did the DMT, I entered basically a red realm. And I know the Dakinis tend to be like a feminine spirit more so, like trickstery feminine, but when I did the DMT, it was a very masculine entity. I don't know how many there were really. It's hard to kind of draw the line at a certain point when like everything, like the whole environment feels like conscious almost, but it felt very masculine. But what I was talking to you about like probably 2 months ago, I think, month or two ago, I don't know. It like I wasn't trying to do any, like I wasn't even really meditating. I would close my eyes and then it was just like red and I was trying, it was utter chaos and it kind of scared the shit out of me, honestly. Like, I mean, I don't know, you posted something with the and it looked exactly like what I saw. They were like these they were like red, but they had like white clownish faces and they kept changing faces and like just fucking with me, like being yeah, very like trickstery. I don't know. It was insane. And then I asked you like about it just because you have you're very good with like the cosmology and I just wanted to know like what the hell is even going on. And yeah, I think that definitely was the Dakini realm because the more I've been researching that, more I've been researching the Dakinis, that's pretty clear to me.
They are this exactly like I 100% agree with you. That's exactly like when you even told me, I was like, it's clearly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like I know, but for me, like to hear it, it reminds me of my own experiences. It reminds me of like exactly how they are, like they beckon you kind of into their Pure Land or Kachari or whatever people want to kind of describe it as. So I kind of recognized it. And then also, like, they're my favorite, but they're also the most difficult in a way because they really expect you to, like, be a good practitioner. That's how it's always been instilled in me, like, when you experience those things, that they feed off of your kind of strength as
Yeah.
in the practices. So they'll behave the more diligent you are.
I
So
mean, they definitely felt. I don't know. They felt very. I don't want to say I guess draining, but I don't know. That sounds like kind of harsh. I guess. Kind of harsh. I guess. But yeah. I don't know. I'm not really like a serious. Like I'm trying to become more serious. Do more serious practice. But like I was just for the most part, I've just been like meditating, just kind of just seeing what happens and like I kept ending up there for the period of probably like 3 or 4 days and it was I mean it was like chaos work in that realm. It was like I don't know, things kept switching around and they kept like I don't know, they kept messing with me. It felt like
mhm,
and that's what I've heard too. They're like very trickstery.
mhm.
They are very playful in a way.
Playful. That's a
Like
great word,
yeah,
playful.
like I think Dakini doesn't mean like dance. It means dancer or
Yeah, it
something.
can it can refer to, well, a yogini specifically, or like a Narokachari yogini or Narokachari Dakini. That would refer to like someone who's a sky dancing witch, basically, who is,
Nice.
they're usually red, but they can be all colors. They can also be no colors in the sense that they can be human colored, but then they kind of take on that red hue that is very typical of the kind of feminine Buddhist divinities.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like red is usually, I mean, maybe I'm just thinking of this in like Democrat, Republican, American way, but like red, I always thought was like a masculine color, but that.
I mean, it is. It is. It has a very, oh, sorry about that. It
You're
has
good.
a very masculine, connotation. I think
Hmm.
that it is more of a, we do consider it, especially in Western esoterics, as a more of like a martial color, like it has that fire, the war, all of those kinds of like
Yeah.
Kabbalistic connotations. But I think what is interesting is that red is a descending color. So if you look at it from like a Gnostic perspective, the consort kind of falls through reality and it's red. Like when we are peering it or when we're perceiving it,
Hmm.
it's red in color. So we're seeing kind of the red descending stars, or
Okay.
the red descending energy, or the red descending light. Whereas the consort is usually dark blue, so he's an ascending power.
Okay.
Like the sky, like I always talk about,
Yeah.
like something I
Huh.
frequently discuss is he is kind of like the stalwart. It's kind of the opposite, and I totally understand what you're saying. It is kind of like, it's
I guess they
kind
could
of
switch play. They're kind of like, I mean, blue and red are opposite, like, they're opposing, but I guess you could switch places with them either way, like one's masculine, one's feminine. But
100%. And there,
yeah.
again, there are blue, like it's just activity colors. It's just a way for us to understand and kind of categorize them. Obviously, I've told you this, that Buddhists are very, they verge on like Judeo-Hellenic kind of autism with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
spiritual categories.
I
They
get
really,
it.
yeah, they really love to like kind of put everything in its place. So
Yeah.
categories of
I'm the
colors.
same way.
I think that's what appeals to me too, is that it is just like a system for, people like us that really like deep cosmology, not just like superficial,
Hmm.
okay, this is like a god name. No, it's way more than that. It's much deeper than that.
Yeah, and it's hard to like bring it into a system because I mean, I'm sure there is like a deep order to the universe, to the cosmos, but like in these human forms, when you like get a taste of that other side, like all the realms and stuff, it's utter chaos, and it's like hard to come back down and to it's it's crazy to like come back down and to put it in a system. It's like
Hmm.
very very difficult, but it's fun to do, and I like to know like what's going on. I guess I don't want to just accept that it's all chaos, that like there's no way I could possibly ever, and I know that I probably could never possibly comprehend it to its fullest extent, while I'm in this body, but
I think, just in my opinion, I think that's what they kind of are. They are kind of this like knowledge bearers. They kind of are to make you fall in love. Like I know specifically like for Kurukula, that's her kind of function, is that she
mhm.
makes you fall in love with Dharma. And then like the other yoginis, they all have their different functions, obviously, but I think that that's why they beckon people. They beckon people who have, whether you know it or not. Like I didn't really, like I've always had a connection to Dharma, but I didn't necessarily, I mean, I definitely played around. So it wasn't
Mhm.
like I was super committed or faithful
Yeah,
to
yeah,
it. So I think that they call you in to kind of remind you to be like, we're here, like come
yeah.
get us,
That's
you
what I've
know?
heard too, is that they come to you if you're, at least probably if you're more experienced, they come to you if you're like being too serious, not having enough fun
Hmm. Hmm.
with your practice.
No, that's 100% true.
And it makes sense because they're like playful beings. But what's really interesting is, and I told you this too. I was talking to you about it, but before I went to this realm, it was after the DMT trip where I was there, and before like this most recent experience. This is probably like a year or so ago. I like was meditating. It was probably before bed. I just like closed my eyes and I had a vision where I was in that realm, like almost like in the DMT trip space, but I was the person, I was the being who was like making these like these higher dimensional objects. And yeah, we were talking about it. I'm like, is that like a past? But you were saying how like that realm is outside of time, so it could be my future, my past, like, who knows, but it was
It's a very co-creative place. That's
yeah.
kind of my experience, is that it's this place that, they're unlike, even though I do dabble in Shakta Tantra, the Buddhist Tantra really places the emphasis on she is like a very liberating force. And I'm saying she in the singular because in the Buddhist idea, as I think is that it is kind of one, but they appear as many.
Yeah.
So, so she is liberated from time and liberated from convention. So it can be both, as you said, disorienting, but it can be, I think that's what the benefit of it is it can be a place where it's beyond conceptual, like you are beyond time. So yes, it obviously can relate to things in the past, present, and future, but then it's also like pushes you a little further, pushes you a little
Hmm.
past those kind of like waking consciousness.
Yeah. No, it was I don't even know. I mean, it's hard to even describe like these
Yeah, no,
things,
totally.
it's but what I also think is interesting was like that the Naga realm, which I don't know if that's what this was, but I had like a series because you were talking about it and you said it's like a subtle realm that people conceive of as either like under the earth in the water, that's like that's the way it's usually conceived of, but
Mm.
I had these series of visions where like I was wondering what this was for probably this probably happened like 2.5 years ago. I've been wondering ever since, and like I heard you on a podcast, and it just fucking it clicked for me. Like at least what I think this could have been was I don't know. It was like these series of visions. I probably had two or three of them where I was in this place with no color really, like black, I guess you could say. But there were these beings, and I was like I don't know. I was semi lucid, but it felt like a play almost, like a play or like a ritual. But I was like, we did these series of events that I don't know. It made no sense to me. Like coming out of it, I'm like, what the hell was that? Like they handed me something. I don't even know how to describe. It's not even worth describing. But like, yeah, I don't know what else that could have been because it was a very subtle thing and it was very orchestrated and it felt like a play, like a play, on or like a TV show or something. They like handed me some object, I handed it back, and then, I don't even know. It was so utterly bizarre. And ever since, and I was like, what the fuck was that afterwards? I haven't been there since, but I've been trying to figure that out for years. And when you said that, I was like, that had to have been it. I mean, it could have not have been, I don't know, but I don't know. The whole Nagas, that really fascinates me.
Well, I think this also, that it also really fascinates me. I've had visions of snakes for quite a few years. Um, it's not necessarily like bad or whatever. It's just it is what it is. But no, I think I think the Buddhist cosmology just in general is just very rich, and it provides a lot of kinds of answers to things that you can like experience in your mind, and then also like spiritually if you want to consider it like a different place. So
Hmm.
I think, yeah, I think it offers a lot of like it gives you kind of like a textual basis to your experiences. So that's exactly what I experienced like in the like when I started having like much more potent spiritual experiences. It was like it just made so much more sense. So it was somewhat like what you're describing, like you heard me speak about it or you heard other people speak about it. That's exactly how it was for me. I was like, because I did know the Buddhist cosmology, I did recognize things, but
Yeah.
sometimes it takes someone else to say it before it clicks for you, and that's how it was for me.
Yeah, well, I had no conception of I mean, I knew Buddhism like as like a very basic understanding of Buddhism, not really the cosmology whatsoever, but I just, and I wasn't even really meditating at the time. This was years ago, and I was like, I was more into the conspiracy
Hmm.
aspect of things rather than like, going off the deep end with the occult and just, actually trying to have these experiences of my own. But yeah, it was just a series. It was like 2 days in a row. I had like 3 or 4 of these visions, and I hadn't had them since, and it was the weirdest thing. But yeah, I think also like you were saying, I think that is a very common thing for people to see like snakes, because I've seen snakes during meditations, and I think it really is like a Judeo-Christian, like it's a newer thing to think that the snake represents evil. It's like that hasn't been the case throughout history, really. I don't think until Christianity, mainly probably Christianity, I'd say.
I think even in Christianity, the snake is just so misunderstood in the sense of like applying one specific label to it, like evil. I've
Mhm.
heard different, more like Protestant American Christians describe it like very, like the Genesis story, like very, like they'll say, oh, it's Satan. Well, it doesn't say that. They'll say, oh, it's Lucifer. Well, it doesn't say that either.
Yeah.
So I think that a lot of people have like taken their kinds of like preconceptions and applying it to the nature of the snake in that story. And just as Buddhists, like we try to go against our preconceptions. So I think
Mhm.
I try and embrace it exactly like how you're saying, like just you go through the experience, you acknowledge it, and you don't like, yeah, I mean snakes do freak me out. Like just just to be honest,
Yeah.
like I don't really love them, but the reality is like I have seen them. It does come up sometimes. It definitely has layers of meaning, and you just kind of like move forward. You don't like get stuck in fear, especially fear. And that's pretty much it. So I try not to do too conceptual, like good or evil, or I think this.
Yeah.
I think it's,
Non-dual.
yeah, I try and be non-dual. I mean, it's difficult, right? Because like when you come out from experiences like you're describing, yeah, non-duality makes so much sense in those like couple months after like really deep experiences.
Hmm.
But then once you start to like even out and integrate the things, like yes, intellectually non-dualism still makes sense, but it's not as tangible. It's not so much,
Yeah.
right? It
And
that's what I
it's also like it's not always useful in the real world, like like a serial killer or something. Like you can't just be like, you have to be like, that dude's evil, you can't
100%. No,
you
you're
can't
totally,
just, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, you're totally right. You have to be able to like have like values and make judgments on things. So you're totally right. It's not very practical necessarily. And so
Yeah.
I do think you have to base it. That's what I like about text, and that's what I was trying to emphasize, is that you have to kind of base it in something that's like, I don't want to use a Marxist term, but I'm probably going to, like a historical kind of like materialism. You have to base it in like real world experiences,
Yeah.
and then also be able to make judgments based on like materialism rather than spiritual.
No,
So
definitely, definitely. I mean, do you believe in like objective good and evil, would you say?
this is a challenging thing. I think that I try and look at it through the lens of like bodhicitta, like developing like greatness, compassion to all beings. I mean, I know that's like everybody thinks that's like so hokey and Buddhist,
Yeah.
and it is, but there is something to it, like where you don't. It's like when I try and do sadhanas, I try and go into it without I try not to do anything in it. I just try and like go where the sadhana should go, like follow the visualization, follow the prayer text, whatever. And I try and use that to like do it properly rather than like apply specific force to the physical or material world or even the mental world. I try and just let it be. Just try and like let it be kind of like a Zen or
Hmm.
Dzogchen or Adi Yoga state. I don't want it to be like magic per se. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes yes, that can be useful. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying I'm innocent of like ever doing that, but I'm just saying that I try really hard not to do that. So I think that you must develop bodhicitta. I think that if you're doing it in a Buddhist way, now in my experience with Shakta Tantra, it's a little different. You don't need to necessarily cultivate bodhicitta, take refuge, do your guru yoga. I mean, yes, guru yoga is still important, but not quite as important. So I think that it depends. It depends on your system. I do think that there is objectively good and evil in like you could make a list of like the 10 commandments of Jin, and it would be pretty much similar to what they are. Like, I think that you can
Okay.
objectively say, like certain things are good, certain things are clearly destructive. I try and be like a more pro cosmic force. That's at least how I think of myself.
Hmm.
So, and like I generally think that people can manifest like prosperity, happiness. I mean, obviously happiness is ephemeral, can come and go, but I think in general we can like live relatively happy, good lives. And so I'm more team humanity. I definitely, I have also a conspiracy kind of like obviously after 2020. I think we're
Yeah.
all
Kind
kind
of
of
have to be at this
conspiracy
point.
theorists now. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean that's how it is for me. I try and like take every issue and I try and I try not to I go against the managed dialectic, and I actually think that you do this quite well, maybe better than I even do. And you tend to take more very interesting positions. And we actually spoke about this. We don't have to talk about that context, but we spoke about this as how you can be kind of a contrarian to a popular, even if it's like a more conspiracy theorist kind of like paradigm, but you can take
Hmm.
like a contrarian opinion to that as long as you can reason it out. I find that more interesting.
Yeah, I try to do that. Like whatever the consensus is, I try to, because I don't know, people on in mass, they tend to over over exaggerate whatever the thing is. There might be like a hint, like a little bit of truth to it, but that tends to be the case, is that they over exaggerate whatever the truth is to a point where it's not really that true anymore, you know? So yeah, and plus it's just the contrarian in me as well, where I'm
Mhm.
like, and it can be annoying to an extent, just to like, at least when I see people just like, whatever someone says, just be like, nope, that's not wrong, and then say the opposite thing. But I don't know. I always find the truth is somewhere in the middle, usually. Maybe not exactly, but because
No,
I don't want to be like a centrist about everything, but
no, this is the thing. This is the battle, Zach. I totally feel you. It is not, that's the thing. I am definitely not a centrist. I don't view myself as a centrist. I don't think my opinions are centrist opinions, but there is a kind of truth that is found in a moderate opinion that is just
hmm
seems to be, I don't know, cosmic law or something. It seems to be true. So, you know, I kind of have always interpreted it as more of a maybe pragmatic libertarian kind of opinions, or like it's hard because the things people do tend to exaggerate. So you have that's totally
yeah,
true.
yeah,
Then you have the hystericalness of social media. That's also true.
yeah.
Like we're
That always rubs me the wrong way, to the point
Yeah,
where I'm like,
100%.
you guys are wrong. I mean, I don't even care if you're right, but you're wrong. And someone
No,
gets
I
to
totally
say,
agree. I totally agree. You have to fight against that. Like that's what
hmm
social media is. Like you're really good at this. Is that you have to make it. You have to be like the rhetorical power. You have to kind of like, if you, even if it's not a nuanced opinion, whatever that is, you have to just say, like I say things that I don't really like. Yes, I kind of mean it, and like it's funny, but
hmm
it's not necessarily like, it's not like something I'm gonna go do. But it's just like you say it because it has like a certain shock value or a certain kind of power.
yeah. That's what I do a lot on my Twitter page, is like, almost like schizo posting to an extent,
Mhm.
or like I'll just say things like, a lot of the stuff I say I mean, but like sometimes I'll just say something because I think it's funny, and then it'll people will take it either the wrong way or think I'm like completely serious, and then like a shitstorm is unleashed. But yeah, I definitely agree. No, I would say I agree with yeah, I don't know. It's hard to, at least when it's like mainstream politics, I try not to engage too much, but
Mhm,
like
mhm.
when I do, I would say I'm more libertarian, probably. Like if I have to engage in that, but like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I try to disassociate from left-right politics for the
Yeah,
most part, you know?
yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I think that it's a complete waste of time. I think it's like, I think the people who are really entrenched, especially online, like obviously I'm more anti-left, whereas I'm like, I
Yeah,
just find them
I
to be
feel it.
complete, you know, but like the right wing is just exactly the same too. So I
Yeah.
shouldn't say that, but it, you know, it tends to be a little more true or a little more real, I guess. But I totally agree. I think that if you like, that's what I like about you is that you don't engage. Like I don't ever worry about that. I never like, oh, I'll never like see like crazy videos from you. It'll just be like really base takes, like occult takes, and like you know, I can vibe with that. And that's what I try and do too. Like just I don't want to talk politics really. Like sometimes it's inevitable, but
Yeah. No, I really used to be into it, honestly. Like, I used to, back when I was more in college, you know, I mean, it rubs off on you. Like, as much as I like to think I'm not psyopable, I'm psyopable because I was much more, I don't want to say leftist, but I was much more like
mhm,
libtarded out, you know, when I was in college. And like, I really wasn't, like, I don't know. It's just, and I would also, especially when I was in university, you know, I would write like essays for my professors, and you already know what these people think, so you
mhm,
have to like pretend to be a communist,
mhm, mhm.
like like and you get an A, you know. But
No, 100%. You have to. I think people forget this is that you know, like I'm a millennial. I don't know how old you are, Zach. You don't have to say, but I think that's exactly right. Like when I was in university, that was the truth. Like you had to definitely have like you had to be able to discuss like labor theory,
mhm,
feminist, you know, different feminist kinds of cosmology or worldviews and all of that. Like you had to be able to be fluent in that kind of like social justice language to do well.
yeah,
At
yeah,
least
and
a little bit, at least
it'll rub off
pretense.
on you too, you know. Like, as much as I would like to think, like when I was in college, I would, you know, pretend to think a certain way so that way to get in the professor's good graces. But yeah, you'll internalize some of the stuff you write, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
no
No,
matter
that's
what.
exactly.
Like, you fake it. I mean, that's like the thing is like fake it till you make it or whatever. But like you pretend to be someone for so long, and then you'll internalize some of that stuff. And like I still like I still am very libertarian in a lot of things. Like I don't know. I don't care if someone's gay really. You
No,
know,
totally.
like I don't care what people do honestly for the most part. Like I don't know, just don't force it on kids.
Yeah, that's
But
what my thing is. Just stay away from kids and like we're all cool.
yeah, and like I
Don't
just
compel speech, you know, don't, you know, pay for your own surgery. Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty much where I'm at too.
And some people like really, I don't know, they just like it really it like they spend all their time like fucking talking about trans people or
Hmm.
yeah, I'm like, what? Why is this like a thing of yours? You know, it's almost weird to be that anti. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. I think you can take a contrarian opinion, just like we talked about psyopability. I think you can take a contrarian opinion and then you kind of like play that role and then you kind of take on maybe the more extreme views. And then there's also the idea that you can sort of use inflammatory rhetoric to kind of make your point. So, but then you don't want to lose those likes. You don't want to lose like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
you know, that thing. So I totally know what you're saying, and I totally agree. And like I was always very independent minded, but I definitely, I mean, I internalized a lot of leftist things. It took me quite a few years to really interrogate some of the things that I believed and like kind of say, why do I believe those things?
hmm
And you know, and kind of like come to more rational, more again, I don't want to say centrist, but just more moderate like kinds of thinking.
No, I would say I did too. At least like on
Hmm.
the economic level. You know, I would say it was really Nietzsche because I like minored in philosophy. I took some philosophy classes in college just for fun, really,
Hmm.
and it was really reading him that that really like show like that really just fucking shook me up, and I was like, why? Because like, I don't know, a lot of people, it doesn't help that a lot of people misunderstand Marx and, all this stuff. Like, the right wing critiques of all that stuff it's not accurate. Like, they're
Yeah,
not
I know
actually,
exactly. I know
you know what I
exactly what you're
mean?
talking about.
And like, so it was really Nietzsche and like his idea of like slave morality and just like the resentment. Like, I feel like that because that's what a lot of it is. It's like it's based on resent. It's like a resentment based mindset, I guess, where it's like, and then like, I don't know, I was never like, I didn't grow up like dirt poor or anything, middle class, but yeah, I don't know.
No, I think you're totally correct. I mean, I've never actually discussed this, but I will just say in this because I think it's interesting, is that I really cracked Tantra through Hegel.
Okay.
So I think it really, like this idea of the dialectic, trying to
Mm-hmm.
apply it to, like, it was already there. It was clear to me. Like, I was really heavily listening to different kinds of like more, I guess they would be anti-left Marxists,
Mm-hmm.
and they were kind of like talking through dialectics like in very much more like scientific kinds of rational ways. And I was like, there's something really interesting here. There's something like that I'm understanding in like a more esoteric way, but I can't really articulate it. And I was like, okay, so like apply it to Tantra, see like how it works. I read some, people there, the Marxist theory does appear in Buddhist studies quite frequently now,
I can see
especially.
that.
So I tried, I was just consuming a lot of things and and I was rereading Hegel because I was like, there's so much alchemy in this, and, Tantra's alchemy. So, like, let me find the overlaps. I started reading Evola again. It just all started clicking. And then I kind of realized, oh, okay, I see it now. And I
Mm-hmm.
started being able to visualize it. And I think that really helped me.
Okay. No, yeah, that makes sense to me.
And like
Yeah.
everything happens in synthesis. Like Tantra is really into synthesis, Hegel's really into synthesis. So it really that's what really made it make sense for me.
Yeah. Yeah. The more I've been getting into like Tantra, just Eastern occultism in general, it's really helped me to widen my perspective more so. And yeah, I don't know, I just find like studying the pantheon, studying the gods, it's the most fascinating thing to me. And like
Well,
I
I
like all
love it.
the
So
inner yeah, I like all the inner teachings too. Like
mhm,
I understand the importance of it all, but like
mhm.
I've always found the outer more fascinating.
No, I'm totally there with you. I'm like one of those really good and bad students at the same time because I'm the exact same way. Like I love the outer stuff. I love the ritual. I love the iconography, and like yes, there are multiple layers of meaning obviously in the
Hmm.
icons as well. So, but there's some really interesting layers that you can really, I think, articulate, discuss, and it really is very magnetizing. That's how I find it anyway. I find it just like
Yeah.
super fascinating. I'm like, this is amazing. This is like, because it relates a lot to like how we think, how we see things in nature, how we understand like the cosmic cycles, how we understand astrology. I mean, it's like, yes, it's very similar in some ways to Western astrology, but it's also quite different.
Hmm.
So I just think that there's such an interesting perspective, and that's kind of what I liked. Like when Lee asked me on his show, I just was like, this is something that I think would help not people, but help fill in this kind of void in the conspiracy world. And I didn't quite realize why it was not a common view. Like people do talk about non-dualism. Obviously, you and I have discussed other kinds of like more left-hand path people who would like proclaim a non-dual view. And I'm not making a
Hmm.
judgment on like whether they are or not. I don't know. I just I think that there's something very interesting there when you sort of use it and apply it to the conspiracy lens. And I always wondered, why aren't people discussing this?
Well, I guess with the conspiracy, like all conspiracies are it's kind of based on like good and evil, like it's like these
Mm-hmm.
rich people are doing evil. So like it has to be kind of dualistic. And like I don't necessarily disagree, but yeah, I think a non-dual, I mean, that's what like Nietzsche was also, he
Mm-hmm.
wrote Beyond Good and Evil, and like he was very non-dual in his thinking, I'd say,
No,
but
I agree with you.
I don't know, I would say conspiracy is where I like started and like my whole like trying to figure out secrets. But then once I started to get into like Gnosticism, which is basically like, I mean, I don't want to dumb it down, but like it's almost like a like God conspiring against you, like the universe conspiring against you.
Mhm.
So that's where I started really being like, wow. And I don't know if I necessarily agree, but like I internalized a lot of that stuff to where I'm like, I don't know, because I feel like the place we exist, we are like there's something on the outside that probably is using our energy. Like I don't want to make it sound like, cold and like it's bad necessarily, but like they're probably like the world probably is a battery in a way. You
No,
know what
I
I mean?
agree. I agree with you. 100%. I'm there.
And like Buddhism, I mean, it's interesting. It is very Gnostic
Hmm.
in the sense where it's like the end goal is to escape, but like it's a lot more internal. Like the Ophite Gnostics and certain darker sects,
Hmm.
they were trying to like force their way out of this universe,
Hmm.
like through like sacrifice rituals and crazy stuff. But yeah, that's what. And I guess it is almost pessimistic in a way. I guess that's like Nietzsche's critique of Buddhism, and I think that has changed as Buddhism. Like the Vajrayana is a lot less pessimistic than
Yeah,
like the early.
Vajrayana is definitely not that. We're
Yeah,
definitely like the opposite kind of. We're not, it's not really, but it is. It's those critiques that the Indians, like the Indian kind of like Vedantic and Jain and Sikh
mhm,
and the Sufis, when they would level that against like the early Buddhist, that might have been true for some kinds of teachers and thinkers,
yeah,
but definitely Vajrayana, that is not true.
yeah. It's much
Yeah,
more life affirming, I would say.
yeah, 100%. We definitely go towards like bliss, go towards, living in the world, being of the world, not necessarily enjoying everything in the world. Like it's
Yeah,
very moderate, right? But you're definitely allowed to be in the world, enjoy the world. You're just supposed to be a little bit aloof.
yeah. And you also just have to recognize that it's like you can if you recognize it's an illusion, and then you can participate in it. Like
100%.
you just have to recognize it. Whereas most
100%.
people don't even recognize it. They have no idea what's even going on. And
No, you're totally right.
that's kind of been like I don't know. I guess I'm obsessive, like autistic obsessive to a degree where I'm like trying to figure out all the secrets of the universe
Hmm. Hmm.
where it's like I don't know, and like people I don't know. At first, tried to tell people, like tried to get them interested, and like it
Hmm.
was really I guess everyone probably does that, but like most people just don't care. Like they really could give two fucks. Like I mean, I don't know. It
You're
it's
either tapped in or you're not, I think.
yeah,
It's sad to like I'm not trying to be like, oh, I'm like so tapped in. I'm not all the time. Sometimes I'm
yeah,
not.
yeah.
Sometimes I don't
No,
feel
yeah.
it. But
I drop in and out too, and
yeah, I think that's healthier, to be honest.
it's not good to obsess,
No.
but it is weird. Like why? I don't know. I
Yeah,
just
why are some people more attracted to this idea of truth or of like understanding reality or knowledge, and some people just are fine with,
yeah, just
not knowing.
and like you could say that's like a systematic thing, like people are worried about their bills and whatnot, but like I don't know, I feel like I don't know, I mean it's impossible to say, but I don't know if that would be the case. Like if we lived in some utopia, whatever, automated gay communism or whatever. But I don't think people would still ponder these things all the time, I don't know. It's hard to
No,
say, I guess.
I totally agree with you. I think the last like 4 or 5 years have really separated. I've talked about this before, but like the wheat from the chaff, like very much.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been ups and downs, like major and like astrologically as well. But I definitely think that people who were meant to be more interested in not necessarily Buddhism even, but just like what is the nature of reality. I
Mm,
think those people have sort of stepped forth, and people who are less interested in it have kind of stepped back. And I also apply that to conspiracy theorists because there's definitely a group of them, especially right now, who are kind of stuck in like that 2020, 2021 kind
yeah,
of like, more of a WEF narrative,
I see
which
that.
was
Yeah.
which was valid in its moment. Like we all needed to know that, okay, but now it's time to like, there's a different critique that needs to happen now.
No, the gap, like, I've heard New Agers describe it as like 3D and 5D, and like I don't know how true that is, like exactly, but the gap has grown. I've heard other people describe it as like they say this, like there's more people awake now than ever, but there's also more people like devolved. Like there's more evolved people and more devolved
Hmm,
people.
hmm, hmm.
And like it's honestly crazy because I don't know, I just walk throughout my day and like some people I talk to, it's like, and then you talk to other people and it's hard to even talk to them. And like
No,
I don't want
100%.
to sound like I don't know, like I'm better than people or whatever, but
No,
it's weird.
no, I totally agree with you. I think that that's exactly right. I don't know, sort of my theory is that there's different people in different timelines. Not
Yeah.
timelines per se, like they're not like it's not so sci-fi as that sounds, but I just think people's consciousness might have stayed back in like 6 months ago, 4 years ago, like,
Hmm.
and like I see that a lot with, I'm not trying to pick on them, but like the kind of like vote blue people, like they're acting like it's 2008.
Yeah.
It's just not 2008. It's totally
Well,
over.
I
And
I look, I will pick on them because I think that is
I
that is
mean,
like
it's
that is like
ridiculous
probably
for
that is
sure.
probably the worst. I don't know. That is probably the most devolved of all people, or
No,
like
100%.
hardline Democrats. That's a pretty insane thing to be these days.
No, you're totally right. You're totally right.
That's probably that's probably the worst. That I mean, besides like utter complete sociopaths or whatever, but
Hmm.
like as a group, like taking a like wide perspective, I'd say those. Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I wasn't trying to like, I'm just, I try not to form
No,
like
I
really strong
yeah
opinions, but you're totally right. I mean, that is the absolute probably most garbage. Neocons and them, which are basically the same thing.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
that's pretty much the most
like
garbage of all
the Daily
opinions.
Wire type, Ben Shapiro type crowd.
I mean, all that is like so bullshit too, like
It's insane.
people and like reacting to it. Could you imagine like sitting on X or
Yeah,
Twitter and
giving your
just being like,
energy.
yeah, like being like either mad about it or being like, oh, they're so base. Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah, like,
it's
no,
insane.
it's so ridiculous. No, I totally agree with you. It's hard, it's hard because I feel exactly the same way. Like, I am not better than anyone. I am still like, working on myself to a
Yeah.
large degree. And but at the same time, I know that I'm like a little bit smarter
No,
than to
you are.
avoid those traps, at least to avoid that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And it's hard because you try and navigate like a conspiracy community or occult community, and they're talking about like, well, I don't even want to do Twitter discourse, but like it's so ridiculous. Some of the things like the altar stuff, and it's so dumb. Honestly, it's like so low consciousness. Like that's what you're worried about. You're crying because some Christian didn't like your altar. Like really?
Yeah, I can see that. It's I don't know. It's also like people that are like I don't know, I don't want to say stans, but like people that get really into like celebrity gossip
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
stuff like that. That's also very I just can't even believe that. I can't
I
get into that
totally agree.
mindset.
I totally agree. You'll never find that on my feed ever. I don't like celebrities. I mostly think they're all witches. So yeah,
Yeah.
unless I'm gonna say that they're a witch, you will never see them on mine either.
And like
So
sometimes I will just shit on, like if I see something I'll shit on it, but like to get really, it's less so like hating on someone, like hating on a celebrity, but more so like loving a celebrity is kind of insane, more so insane to me. Where it's
no,
like,
totally right.
where
It is insane.
it's like idolatry almost to an extent,
Hmm.
you know?
No, this is totally speaking my language. I think I've realized this in the last few years. Like I've never been a celebrity person like my
Hmm.
whole life, but I think having more deeper spiritual experiences, I realize that how I've always described it is like who you project into death, that is what you aim for.
It makes
So
sense.
at least for a Christian, like if someone's very Christian, at least I can appreciate if you project Jesus there because that's like that's okay. That's cool. That's
Yeah,
aspirational,
yeah.
right? You know, like I'm down with that. But like if you're projecting like a celebrity there, that is an inversion. That
Yeah,
is
that
not
is
good.
crazy. And it's almost
So,
like, I don't know, it's crazy to view. I mean, I guess this is like the majority of the population, but they'll like see an actor or whatever and like think they're so much higher than them or they're like some special human being, like a god or something. It's crazy. And
I
like
mean, isn't it interesting at the beginning you brought up the idea of like witnessing like a play with the Nagas, like you said that
mhm,
word specifically, and I always think of everything as like the Leela as well, like the divine play. And actors are really well positioned to do like magic in public, but people don't recognize it because they have this weird idea of what magic is.
yeah.
And they don't understand. I mean, I'm not saying that I fully understand it, but I know that just performing certain things in public, it's not about candles or whatever. It's about like the ritual actions that they're performing in public. And actors are very well positioned to do things like that and
Oh
to make,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, right.
all TV shows are like that's magic or like even music.
Hundred percent.
I don't know if you've been to like a big concert
I've
recently
been
or
to a
anything.
couple in my day, but not recently.
But like the way they're set up, it depends obviously like who, and you'll see it on Twitter too, like the Taylor Swift concerts or
Hmm.
whatever, where
Hmm. Hmm.
like nowadays it's like very blatant and kind of in your face. But like I was at a festival one time and I had taken some LSD, so
Hmm.
I was very hyper aware, I guess, and it was the creepiest, it was insane, honestly. Like I could not believe it and just like seeing the effect that it had on the people, like the positioning of them up on the stage, almost like an altar,
Hmm.
like they're preaching down, and
Hmm.
then it's just the mechanics of it are absolutely insane, and it is magic. Like you can't, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like you can still enjoy that.
Hmm.
Like I enjoy music. I mean, even like lower vibrational music, whatever you want to call it,
100%.
as long as you're aware of it though, it doesn't like it might affect you a little bit, but it's not the same as like really, I don't know. I've just noticed when I was younger, like music for me, like I'm really into music, but like that was something that like I would embody whatever I was listening to. Like it
Hmm.
would affect my life. And like looking back on it now, it's crazy, but like yeah, I would just completely embody, sorry. I would completely embody like whatever I was listening to. And I mean, you can see that with like everyone really, like people that are into Taylor Swift, I don't really know what what there is to embody from her. Like she seems kind of like a
It's very neurotic, I think.
yeah, very. I mean, she seems like plain Jane too. Like I don't know.
That's what it is. I don't get it either. I'm totally with you. Like her fandom is very strange to me, but
And just like
obviously
the way she's been propped up recent, I don't know. It's very weird. Very weird.
No, that I agree with you. I think that there's definitely something. I'm trying, this is the thing. Everything that you said about it being a spell, I'm 100% with you. If you know what it is, yes, that is a spell breaker. That is
Hmm.
the best way to like combat like psyoping through those kinds of magical methods, I think, is to know what it is. And but it is hard, but it doesn't mean you can't enjoy it, like you said. Like, I don't watch Western movies anymore. I've talked about
Hmm.
this before, just because I find I cannot suspend my disbelief at all. And I was like a big film person. I love, I never was really that into Western film per se, but I do love sci-fi movies, and not the Marvel universe or anything
Yeah.
like that, but more like, the 80s, 90s kind of like cooler stuff, maybe some of like
Hmm.
Russian stuff. But it's very challenging now, and like I cannot watch anything on Netflix. I cannot watch, like, it's just too strong.
It's very blatant
Yeah,
nowadays.
very obvious. Like the colors, especially for me, that's always what stands out. Like one of the most is the colors, but the symbols, like seeing pentacles that I would know from like my 20s when I was like more of a left-hand path, like edgelord, like for
Mhm.
sure. All of that, like it's very obvious now, exactly like what you're saying.
Yeah, I feel like also there is. I think you talked about this before, and I don't know how much. I don't know, but I feel like there is an illuminating aspect to all of it, where it's like
Hmm.
it's showing you. I don't know. It's showing you what it is. I mean, I guess that's like the karmic thing, so they're able to do it, like because it's technically consent if they
Hmm.
put it that in your face and you don't notice it or don't care, but that's it really did. Like now I see it in literally everything. Like
Hmm.
there's the first layer, like the exoteric layer,
Yeah.
but beyond that, like every song, anything produced by mainstream Hollywood, anything like that,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's many layers to it. At least an esoteric layer to all of it. And it's
100,
like,
no, 100%. You're totally right.
and yeah, so it is I don't know. Some of it is a lot more blatant than others too, to where it's like, I mean, if you could view it as like illuminating, because there's some things I've learned from film. I can't think of a specific example now, but like, there's some things I've seen from films where like that helped me figure out like what's going on, with the world. But
Well,
yeah.
I think, I'm totally with you 100%. I think there is an illuminant quality to some things. And I think it actually depends a lot on like the sort of disparate constituent parts. Like, okay, so you posted about The Craft the other day,
Yeah,
and
love that movie.
love that movie too. Like, really, like if I'm in a really bad mood, that is a great movie. I can just kind of like chill out and watch that. And that's like a
Hmm.
great, I always like it, even though I've seen it like 100 million times. I know like pretty much all the lines, like everything. It's just like a great movie. And so there was like a moment where I was like, oh, this is just cringe Wicca shit. But then kind of revisiting it, I actually see there's a lot of like actual, yes, like there is that kind of like cringe Wicca layer,
Yeah.
but there's also something really interesting with that film, and really kind of like panentheistic. There's something a little bit more. I mean, they talk about it like God and the devil play football on the field, and like
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
their deity is the deity that is the light. It's like it was very specific.
Yeah.
So just there's something very interesting about that movie, and a lot of movies from the 90s actually, I think were almost like positioned to be illuminant in a more positive way, like more, oh, recognize the subtleties in it. Like
Hmm.
if you can pierce the first density, just like you're saying, like you can get past the exoteric, there is something more interesting in the deeper layers.
Yeah, I find that film interesting too, because it's not like a lot of horror, that's like a cult. It's focused on like, from a more Christian, Judeo-Christian
Hmm.
lens, where it's like
Hmm.
God and the devil. But
Hmm.
yeah, and that they're talking about, yeah, the football field thing. But yeah,
I always love that.
I do agree too. Like the '90s are very. I was born in '99, so I'm 24 right now, about to be 25. But so like I wasn't necessarily alive for it, but I don't know, like the music from that era I really resonate with, like the films, the aesthetic of it, because I don't know, like the 80s were very, it was very colorful,
Mm-hmm.
and there was like hair metal, like Van Halen, that I never really, Motley Crue, it's okay, but it's not really, I don't know, it's kind of cringe now. I feel like
It's
it's
total
very,
cringe. It's total cringe. It's okay.
yeah.
You won't offend me. Trust me. I was
Whereas
listening
like,
to like cool stuff. I mean, I wasn't really alive in the 80s, but like that doesn't offend me at all.
yeah,
We know
whereas like
things cringe that are.
the 90s were very like, it felt like, I don't know, there could be an agenda to an extent too, because it was very like gray day, like it was very like brown auburn color feeling,
Hmm.
gray, but it was very also very like, I don't know, somber to a degree, like,
Hmm.
and just like the grunt, like that music resonates with me a lot, like the grunge, the all that stuff from the 90s.
Well, there's something really interesting about grunge, which I haven't personally cracked, but I'm a big fan of like Colby from Conspiracy Playtime. He's a big music guy, and
Okay.
he often talks about like the grunge stuff. And like, yes, everybody's done a grunge episode on Courtney Love and how her dad was like some weird,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, psyop guy and all of that. And that is all true. But I think that there is something really interesting with the chords, like how they have that dirty guitar that's very
Yeah.
psych rock, but then it's also doesn't sound psych rock. Like if you
It's
listen to
also
70s stuff, it's not really the same, but it's similar.
Yeah, it's also very it's very simple to an extent. Like
Hmm.
I play instruments in like the 70s, 80s, they're very like over the top with the solos and all that.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
like the 90s, it's very like basic riffs to an extent. It's
Hmm.
usually like drop D tuning. It's like lower sounding, darker sounding, but it's very simple. And even like someone like Kurt Cobain, like he's kind of like Bob Dylan to an extent. He's not a technically a good singer really
No,
at all, but like it's like the emotion, it's the I mean the lyrics are good, you know what I mean? Like
it's it's like the whole thing. It's like the whole,
yeah.
like if you're doing a spell, like calling music a spell, then I think that has everything. It has everything and it's appealing. And that is something now that I find with music is that I find it very unappealing. I just don't find
Yeah.
it that good.
It's very like made in a lab almost. Like it's very
Mhm, mhm,
artificial,
mhm, mhm. It's very superficial, very
And
saccharine.
there is underground stuff you can find that's good, but like
100%.
anything that's mainstream nowadays, it's not good. I mean, and a lot of especially with the rap, like the agenda is pretty obvious.
Well,
Like,
they're very illuminant, but not necessarily in like a positive or like a,
no, no.
like a self-referential way. They're very like illuminant, like we're doing Goesha and we're gonna show you that we're into Goesha. Like
Yeah.
they're not hiding it. And that's in some ways, maybe that's okay because it's like people are just telling you who they really are.
Hmm.
But then there's also the thing is like it does make it look cool for like a group of kids that are even younger than you. So, I think it's complicated and like I always think of culture creation as like I love culture, like I love there are certain things that I really love, but I think that it's very managed and it can be very difficult to discern like what is I'm going to use a hipster millennial term, but like authenticity. I wonder about that. I wonder like how much
Yeah.
is authentic and how much isn't.
Well, nowadays, like, with the internet thing, like someone like a group like the Beatles or anything from the 70s, like people can't really see it now, but like that was like like that was the group, like they were famous on a level that's not the same now because we have the internet where anyone could, make a song in their basement.
Hmm.
And so like that is true. Like also, I see what you're saying. Like the Joe Rogan podcast, for an example.
Hmm.
Like how managed is that? Like that. I
That's a
wonder
great
about that
question.
too
That's a great question. Like,
because
how
like
managed is
it's
it?
at
It's
least at first it was very you could tell it was independent, but like
Mhm,
at
mhm.
this point they're getting more views than like Fox News and CNN. So it's like I mean, do they like someone has to come up to him and say something, right? Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, I totally agree. I think that there's even a lot in just like the smaller, even alt media. I'm not
Hmm.
saying everyone. I don't think it's everyone, but I
No, definitely
definitely,
not.
there's definitely people that are more clearly, I think, well, you and I spoke about this the other day and even before, like, if, like 20 minutes ago. I think that there are just narratives that are very sort of untouchable. Like if you have like a contrarian opinion, then oh, you can't even say that. Like that's how often I feel about things. Like I often feel contrarian, but then I'm like, oh, is there even worth
Yeah,
mentioning this? Because you
yeah,
just know that you're gonna get swarmed.
yeah, and it's not even worth saying. Like, yeah, I feel you.
So I
So,
mean, I just think that there are people that definitely push like that kind of like what we'll call like mainstream underground kind of narrative. Like they will push
hmm.
like something they think is like the dissident narrative, but then it's also like it's also very conventional of an
Yeah,
opinion. It's not really like,
well,
sorry,
that's
go ahead.
that's the thing. Like any like the dissident opinion per se, like it'll be like the opposition for a while, and then more people
Hmm.
follow it. It gets kind of sanitized, and then it
Hmm.
becomes mainstream,
Hmm.
and then you have to form a new dissident opinion, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you could really see it with Joe Rogan, even like Alex Jones, someone like that. Like, I wonder about like Alex Jones and David Icke because, like, I don't know, like, to what extent, like, how can they be so big and also, like they've had to, whether or not they know it, like they've had to, whether it's their sources are like giving them stuff, I don't know. It's just really hard to make a judgment. And like
No,
I don't really
100%.
follow Alex. I mean, I think Alex Jones is funny, like
He's the best. He's the best of the group, I think. Like of the three that we're talking about, I think he's by far the most just in my opinion, I just think he's the most
mhm.
informative. I don't really follow his work. Obviously, there was a moment in the pandemic where he seemed really like on it and really interesting.
I like him more so just because I mean, he's funny to me. Like, just he's insane. Like when he goes off on rants,
Yeah,
and
his
like I
big
think,
personality. Yeah, I
yeah,
like
and
that
I
too.
think that's performative to a degree at least, But
Totally,
like
100%.
I would say David Icke is probably the closest, and I think we should also talk about like that idea that I was talking to you about the other day, where like the Nagas and the reptilians,
Hmm.
because
Okay, well, that's really interesting. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, I think. Well, I should ask you what you think first, I guess.
Well, I mean, I was just if you look up like the Nagas on YouTube, that'll be like the first few videos. It'll say like ancient reptilians or whatever. But I did see like some things that kind of made me think that they might be the same thing, which is that so like I don't know, it said that the reptilians live underground, right? Like, and that's where the Nagas live, according to the Buddhist cosmology. But also, I mean, like the Nagas are said to give us our magic practices, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I think it was Jordan Maxwell. He was telling a story about like his friend where him and his family encountered a reptilian like in Colorado in the Rockies or in the woods somewhere. And like they saw him and the reptilian was like in a circle doing like some kind of ritual with a bunch of just humans, a bunch of people. And yeah, so like and then like the reptilian like was able to like teleport up to them and then freeze them, like make them stop in their tracks, like kind of psychically evaluate them, like, check them out and then said, "Okay, you're good to go." And then just like let them be on their way. But yeah, I think those two things kind of like I don't want to say affirmed it to me, but they made me think that might be the case, you know? So I don't know. I don't know what you think.
I mean, I mentioned this to you is that David Icke is well known to have studied at Gamden for the West in the early 90s, late 80s.
Hmm.
He also read all the Vedas, supposedly. He's talked about it in much earlier interviews, like how he had this intense period of study of the Vedas, of the Atharvadas, which is the magical text of the Vedas, and then obviously Buddhism, but like Vajrayana specifically. And so he's getting all of this stuff, like all of this stuff about cities, magic powers, Nagas, the six realm structure, although the Vedas describe it a little differently, but very similarly, obviously, like it's
Uh-huh.
compatible. And so I think definitely he took the ideas from that, and he is like, I'm not going to say it's 100% confirmed, but pretty much he is. I think most people who are like deep divers would say he's like a member of the Order of St. George. He's like a Royal Mason,
Yeah, I can see
New
it.
York, right? And he definitely follows like a narrative, and I think that he tells a lot of the truth, but like with every great like kind of mistruth, it's mostly true, but
Yeah.
then there's like 20% that's a lie
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
or
Whether
misdirection.
it's whether it's intentional or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he is like people would say he's controlled opposition. That is like a very like once you get past like the entry level conspiracy stuff, that's what pretty much everyone agrees on, I'd say.
Mhm.
I'd say more so with Alex Jones, people would say that than David Icke, but yeah, I think so.
I think it's interesting just going back to the color thing, like blue and red. I
Hmm.
think that there's a way to kind of understand them in that scheme. Like you could say David Icke is definitely like the blue kind of like ideas man,
I can
and
see that,
Alex
yeah.
Jones is the kind of red guy. Like he physically he even turns red when he's angry. So I think there's something really interesting there. He's much more concerned with form, like you said, like he has a performativity. Whereas David Icke kind of is like aloof and cool and above it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can see
So
that.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's complicated, right? Like because they do tell the truth on some things, and like David Icke has a I don't necessarily agree with this just because of my own experiences with or practice of Kabbalah or whatever, but he does have that interesting idea of the moon Saturn matrix,
Hmm.
which comes from Yetziradic astrology, so it's not really like with most things with David Icke, it's not totally his original kind of thinking. It definitely has like a medieval basis, but I do find that quite interesting. I do think people get very stuck on the Saturn stuff.
Yeah,
So
it
I
is.
wonder
I've been
if
guilty
he's
of it.
I mean, I have too because it's literally like it's in David Hoffman, the guy who talked about like Revelation of the Method, like we talked about a little before.
Hmm.
I mean, it's all like people always refer to the Saturn things, but I think once you really understand how the tree works, it's very dialectical. It's very much all the spheres are kind of in this constant relationship with each other. So it can't, no one sphere is only one thing. It's kind of like multitudes working together to sort of make reality. So I think that is the one negative of following someone like David Icke and then not like looking at for yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I think the Saturn thing is interesting, like, because I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but like David Icke, like, I think he said that there's like an illusion being cast from Saturn, and I feel like Saturn is like it's associated with like being the king of illusion or whatever. And what I find interesting is so Tracy Twyman, I don't know if you're that from I think we talked about it the other day. I was
Yeah.
talking to you about her, but I was watching something with her and she apparently she was big into the Ouija board, like talking to demons but she apparently talked to Prince or a demon impersonating Prince on the Ouija board and he was trying to talk to her about Saturn and basically said the same thing that there's that we're in like a fake reality, like a very Gnostic idea, but like and the illusion is being controlled from Saturn. So I thought that was interesting how it like that aligns with what David Icke says. But like I don't know how to feel about it because I mean there's obviously positive aspects of Saturn and like I think that is like a big conspiracy, at like entry level conspiracy thing to be like, just Saturn is an evil planet, like,
See,
write it off
that's
as
the
all evil.
thing. Like saying it's evil
Yeah.
is kind of like the klepoth, is kind of like the trap, is kind of like the thing, but where you can understand it in a more, I know this is an unpopular word, but a holistic way.
Hmm.
I think once you kind of get over those, like exactly like we talked about at the beginning, like those greater value judgments, then things start to make more sense. And like you're saying, Saturn does have positive qualities. Saturn is like the text that is written down in books. So that's, I mean, yes, can be used for very destructive things, but it's generally been quite useful for humanity.
Yeah, it's been
And
like he's the ruler of karma, right?
that's right.
And
That's right.
yeah,
And so, yeah, he can be a very harsh judge, and that's who
yeah,
he is. He is the harsh judge.
very
But
disciplinary.
yes, exactly, exactly. But like I'm into Jupiter, like no, I'm not into Jupiter, but I'm into this idea of like maybe the matrix is more controlled
Hmm.
through Chesed or Jupiter. Um, because we know that there is kind of a gravitational relationship between Saturn and Jupiter, whether you believe in space or not. I know a lot of people are anti-space right now, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
Everything can be conceptual or real. That's
yeah. I
that's
don't
okay
know.
with
I don't know
me.
where to fall with that.
I don't
It's
either. I don't really
yeah,
take a strong opinion, but I definitely think like, like Jupiter has its own, like it's not a negative planet, but there are definitely things that people can take in negative ways, like can
yeah,
do that are negative. So I think that's true for all of them, rather than saying like, oh, this is evil or this is bad or
yeah. I would say more so like, yeah. I think the Jupiter symbolism and the Saturn symbolism, it's very big with the elites, the
hmm
ruling. That
hmm
is, and people don't think about Jupiter as much out, like as opposed to Saturn, where it's like,
That's what I think is like the real, like kind of like bait and switch. Like it's like point to Saturn. And yes, there are negative things about Saturn. Not necessarily negative, but for our human lives, certainly,
hmm
sure. But then also like we should think about Jupiter, because Jupiter is such like an important thing in the kind of like, if we're looking at like 13 families of Rome or like Babylonian stuff, like Jupiter plays an immensely important kind of like piece of the puzzle.
yeah. Well, it's associated with like wealth, right, and like
hmm hmm
prosperity. So I
hmm
mean, it would only make sense.
Perpetual growth. That is kind of the idea of Jupiter. It's the perpetual expansion.
Hmm.
And whereas Saturn is the limitation.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in a perfect system, they would, like, I guess, keep each other in balance.
hmm,
But when one gets too far kind of outside of their kind of treaty or their karmic relationship, then things get thrown out of balance.
yeah. It's
That's
like
all
a
I would say.
it's like a checks and balance system.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like this is just a Buddhist idea, but it should always come back to the middle pillar. It should
Yeah,
always
yeah,
be, in balance and kind of like, it's not perfect, but it's what we have.
yeah. I mean, you can't change it.
That's right. So you kind of have to like give up a little bit on grasping and kind of be like, okay, this is like, how can we transform it within ourselves?
Yeah, it's. What do you think about like the whole Elon Musk going to Mars thing? Do you think that's like a
I think it's a religious thing. I think
yeah?
he is like very much into that sphere or planet
Do you
or
think it's symbolic of like war, like going to war? I've heard that. I've heard that said a few times.
I mean, this is the thing. In like the more traditional Kabbalah, yes, Gevura has like an association with war, but so does Jupiter, so does
Hmm.
Chesed. And it can also mean technological innovation and change. And so
Yeah, I can see that.
right, in association with fire, obviously, rockets are very much of that kind of like idea. It's very Hephaestus, very like, I'm going to create the vehicle for transformation. And I think that he definitely is like, okay, so if we're going full conspiratoid, I'll just say my opinion is that whoever they are,
Hmm.
worship the pentad. So they kind of have this system that they there are different factions, and then they have like some people worship Mars, some people worship Saturn, some people worship Jupiter, some people are more into Venus. And it's even true, seems true for certain religions as well. Like certain religions seem to have more affiliation with
Yeah,
certain planetary kind of elements and
definitely.
attributes.
Definitely.
So that's kind of what I think. I think there's like a pentad of 5 planets, 5 maybe names of God that they particularly like, and so they tend to focus on that.
Yeah, a lot of them, as far as Venus, like it's definitely like the darker aspects of Venus too, like the shadow, you could
Hmm
say, but
hmm hmm
you know, like the as far as like the sex obsession goes, and
hmm
but yeah,
Well,
I
Venus
think I
is
would
ruled
agree.
by an anti-god, so it's easy to fall at prey to some of the more tempting vices that Venus gives,
Hmm.
because the outer density, the planetary intelligence, if you want to call it that, the planetary angel is more associated with vices, luxuries. Luxuries are not necessarily bad, but they just, we can easily fall, they can be traps for us, for
Yeah,
sure.
and it's where we get like Venus is where we get the whole idea of like Lucifer, you know, where
hmm
I
hmm
mean everyone's scared of it, I guess, like the name, but
hmm
I mean, yeah, and it was like I mean, the morning star, it was Shahar in like the Sumerian pantheon where it's like so like I don't know, in the Bible is I forgot what verse it is exactly, but they're like, "Oh Lucifer, how art thou fallen?" But that was talking about like a Mesopotamian king
hmm
basically, like the
hmm
fall of
hmm
him. And I've heard it described as like it was an allegory for the hubris of Babylon, you know.
No, I totally, that totally makes sense to me. I totally agree with you. I think that's a very under the thing is, there are really good researchers who have tackled that exactly like what
Hmm.
you're saying. But people don't want to hear it. When people have formed an
Yeah.
opinion about something, and especially in like that Manichean kind of very black and white thinking, they do not want to change it. They don't want to hear it. They have already decided that it's evil, that it's this, it must be this way. And I even find that with like people debating like Christianity, like online people doing like online discourse of like the Bible. People get very intensely focused on their like thesis point rather than like the
Yeah.
nuances of the,
Yeah. Or just
and it's a very nuanced
the
thing.
or just like the energy behind something. Like people get caught up in the you know, the words, the terms,
hmm
rather
hmm
than like what the energy behind it is actually saying, you know. Yeah.
But yeah, just why don't you plug your stuff and then is that okay?
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it's Third Eye Homunculi on Twitter. Yeah, I don't have a podcast yet, but currently writing a novel, which will hopefully be done
Awesome.
by the end of the year. So excited about that. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
No, thank you so much,
I
Zach. It
hope
was
we can do it
honestly great.
again. Yeah, it was fun.
You are honestly welcome anytime you want to plug something. You like when you're finished your book, you're definitely welcome on. You come on anytime. I'm gonna ask that author that you recommended to me. I won't say his name, but if he says yes, I would love to have
Oh
you on
yeah,
as
dude,
like
that
a co-host, and we can just like tackle some
that would be
interesting,
amazing.
yeah, things. And again, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
man.
I really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll keep doing this. We'll, whatever. If I have a guest that you want come on for, that's totally cool. Okay.
Yeah,
And
love
hopefully
to
we
do it
can do
again.
like a roundtable or something with Lee in the future.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Anytime, just let me know. I'm always
Okay,
down.
cool. Definitely we will do that.
Hey, this is Jin the Ninja, and if you enjoyed the show, you can check out more episodes on Spotify and Anchor, and you can check me out on Twitter at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn, and on Instagram at Threshold Saints. And there's a link tree in the show notes, so you can check out all my appearances and my shows to date.